Get to it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. My name is Todd Ronan from the Reality Forecast Show over at Reality Forecast on YouTube. Plus, I teach remote viewing at realityforecast.com. And I'm joined with Liz Cross. And this time we are going to answer some viewer requests on the Patreon. You can suggest somebody you'd like us to probe. How you doing, Liz?
Oh, I'm so excited about Robert Johnson. You know, he is phenomenal. I'm so excited. Thank
So for
you.
those of you that don't know, there's a Netflix special on Robert Johnson. We've had a few musicians that listen to us make some requests about the story of Robert Johnson. And I thought if we could connect with his energy, his soul, and bring him in and ask him questions directly.
Yeah, he's here. Oh my goodness, he's so powerful, ready to talk.
Hey, Robert Johnson, what would you like to be called? Did you have any nicknames that we don't know about?
Did you have any? Boogie, boogie, bougie, boogie, boogie.
Boogie. I like Boogie. Can you tell us about your upbringing and about your early experiences with music as a kid?
Oh, your upbringing. How his upbringing was terrible. His upbringing was poverty stricken. I feel like there were a lot of children in the area in the house where he lived. It really was no love there in the upbringing. No hugs, no kisses, no affection, no I love yous, none of that. So again, it was always like trying to find an escape.
Did you have any brothers and sisters that you could hang on?
There were lots of brothers and sisters, I feel, lots of children there.
How did you develop your guitar picking skills and how did you pick up on it?
Well, somebody handed him a guitar when he was quite young, actually. When he was 9, he sang. And that was the only thing he had. That was the love. That was where he found something that actually loved him back. Um, that's he's I said, were you any good? He's like, no, I was terrible. Did you have anyone teach you? No, he didn't have anyone teach him at an early age how to play. He had to figure it out for himself.
So, who were your inspiration back then? Who'd you listen to? Where'd you go? And how'd you pick it up and do it yourself?
Um, well, he just would hang around different musicians trying to pick up techniques. Is what I've got. Now, bearing in mind, I don't know what's come out on the documentary. I didn't even know there was a documentary about Robert Johnson until yesterday, and I certainly haven't had time to watch it. Um, I haven't, I didn't even know. If I would have known there was a documentary on Netflix, I would have watched that a long time ago. I had no idea. So I'm looking forward to after this probe, possibly watching it, although I like to stay as neutral as possible. So he's telling me he would just pick up techniques from studying like other players. He would hang around different players. He would try to speak to them after the show. He would sneak into I guess like small gig places. And he would like hide in the background so he could listen to music. Music was his life. He lived for music, and that's all he did. I don't feel like he was really capable of working a job. He's telling me, he's saying that, that was just, he was an alcoholic from a very early age, also, from about age 14. Education was no longer there. Most men, he's telling me, had to go either work in like factories or on farms or, picking crops or doing things like that. He says, not me. I just gave it all up. And he's telling me he pretty much lived on the streets.
So that was one of the major obstacles that you faced living on the street.
Yeah, but he says I was free. I was free to do as I pleased.
Can you discuss a memorable moment in your life in those early days, floating around, listening to blues?
I mean, just really like learning different techniques. I feel like he hopped on trains as well. I really do. I feel I'm getting that very strongly, where he would just hop on a train and, he would listen to different songwriters. Now, he did meet someone who would teach him at a later age on how to play. Um, the guy who taught him was also a bit of an alcoholic as well, but saw that Robert had raw talent and capability of playing very complex chords. So he was taught that.
What were some of the dreams and aspirations that you had as a young artist?
Well, he wanted to hit the big time. He wanted to be known. What's so interesting about Robert Johnson is his life has been more celebrated after his death than it was when he was living. He's like, most people couldn't stand me.
Can you share some of the other sources of inspiration that you had to make it big? Was it fame, money, notoriety, or just playing?
Well, money, but mostly just putting his music out there. He says we needed to move away from gospel and religion. And everything was always, if you're not listening to gospel or religious music, then you were down with the devil, right? You were in with the devil. And he really wanted to be part of this movement that strayed away from gospel and religious music. But because he said religion never helped anybody. And I'm saying, but all it did was give people false hopium. He's saying, certainly, given the time period that he was in, I can understand him saying that. He says, Black people were clinging on to religion and hope, and God never came for us. We were severely oppressed. We were going anywhere. There was so much injustice. And why are we clinging on to so much religion and gospel and Jesus and all this other stuff when it was doing nothing for us? So, really, about hitting the big time was changing the Black community to accept songs about the reality instead of songs about hopium.
Was your mom real religious and that's why you kind of recoiled against it?
Was your mom very religious? Well, yes, he's saying that a lot of people talked about religion, um, but were they really religious? No, he's saying they didn't follow the religious guidelines. It was just chatter, and it was just gospel, and it was just a hopium that one day we're all being tested. Life is very difficult for the Black community, especially Clarksdale, Mississippi, those areas, Memphis. Very difficult for the Black community. Going nowhere in life, and we're just thinking that God is testing us, and He's saying there's so much more to life than gospel music.
What were some of the themes that you were working on and trying to convey in your music?
Well, he wanted to be the best, guitar picker in the blues. That was how to be recognized. It was raw talent. and to stand out and to have a new skill that nobody's ever used before. Because, blues music, he was saying, relatively all sounded similar, and he wanted to be to stand out. So that's why he has this new guitar technique at that time period.
Did you ever meet Bessie Smith?
Who's Bessie Smith?
Just some blues person from back then. I was going to say some names and see if he had any run-ins with them. Son House. I think Son House was somebody that he worked with.
Who did you meet? You know, I feel, was Bessie Smith a singer? There was a
Yes.
woman. Oh, okay, okay. He's like the singer, and son. Yeah, the son. Yes, he met a lot of different people because of his lifestyle as well. He was a drifter. Um, he really didn't have a permanent place to lay his head down. He was, he would sleep anywhere. He's like, I don't care if I had to sleep under the stars, or if I got to sleep in a bed for the night, or if I got to sleep in a barn. I feel like people would put him up in the barn. And that's how he made a living as well. He survived on playing for people, and they would feed him and maybe give him some clothes. It was very appealing to the ladies, he's telling me. He had lots of girlfriends, apparently.
Did
And it
he have
was,
any kids?
did you have any children? Yes, he had 4.
One of the theories about your death is that you were poisoned by someone that you were stepping out with their woman. How did you die?
How did you die? It was poisoning. Were you, did you have an affair? He had lots of affairs with married women. And why did they kill you? Because he was having an affair. Now, I have to ask this question because some say the legend is that he died on all fours howling at the moon. And he's saying no, but he did collapse in a field. And I'm saying, but you weren't howling at the moon? No, he wasn't howling at the moon. Um, what is also very interesting is that a lot of his music is, devil, centric about the devils, centered around the devil, like Hellhound on My Trail, and things like that. The Crossroads.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Okay, okay.
Not leaving that out there. He recorded a couple of recordings. Are there more of his recordings out there that he knows about, like bootleg stuff that we haven't found yet? Because only 29 of his songs have been recorded and released.
No, there isn't.
That is a shame.
Hmm.
So let's get to the question. There's a question of, you made a deal with the devil to become famous. Is there some truth to that? And did you make a deal with the devil to become famous?
Ooh. Okay. Did you make a deal with the devil to become famous? No, he said the devil made the deal with me. Ooh. How do you like that answer? He said the devil and darkness was always part of his soul. And I'm saying, but did you? Because the legend has it, he went down to the crossroads, and just before the stroke of midnight, he asked the devil to tune his guitar, and that would give him these amazing abilities, playing abilities. And he's laughing at me. And I'm saying, why are you laughing? And he goes, that didn't happen. But he loves that story, right? He does love that story. And I'm saying, did you go down to the crossroads? He's like, I was down at the crossroads all the time. And I was like, well, tell me about the crossroads. And the crossroads, the legend has it, and there was always this myth back in the day that you don't hang around the crossroads late at night because the devil's down at the crossroads. And he liked the fact that people thought the devil tuned his guitar and he made a deal with the devil to play. But he's
You
saying that
said the devil made a deal with him. Did he see the devil?
that's what he just said to me again. The devil made a deal with me. Oh, he says there was so much darkness running in his soul, right? That's
Yes.
why he was so good at playing the blues, because it was all about the dark times. He says gospel is all about looking towards the light times, but the blues is all about the dark times. And he certainly had enough bad experiences, dark experiences, that he believes, the devil runs the dark and that were put in his life. So he's like, no, the devil made soul contracts with me. But I'm saying, is that why you became this brilliant guitar picker? And he's saying, no.
Did he see the devil?
He says, I've looked that devil in the eye more than once.
What does that look like?
What does that look like? The red eyes, he says. He had quite a few near-death experiences, That's what he's talking about.
Drinking.
Yeah, drinking till he almost dies. And he quite liked that. He quite liked having
Edge living.
those.
Edge living.
Yeah, because he got a lot of inspiration from those near-death experiences. That's why he's possibly made the deal with the devil, because when he's had these near-death experiences, he's looking at the dark right in the eyes, right? And this is where you're headed because of the way you're living. But his consciousness, and he would regain, back to his body. But I'm saying, surely those were experiences were there to warn you to stop living in this way. And he says, I wasn't going to listen to that. So a lot of his writing revolves around these near-death experiences he had, where his consciousness was floating over to the dark.
Did he
Wow.
physically see a being of the devil, or was the contract made in his head?
He's saying he did physically see the being of the devil. Ooh.
How
Ooh, I
tall
got
was he?
cold chills. We got cold chills.
How tall was the devil?
It's not so much about length or height. It's more about how it swallows you up. It's like a black hole, this black mist, this vacuum, and that's the devil looking at you. And the devil would say, come over to me, and he was like, no, I'm not ready to go yet. I'm not ready to go. So then he would always go back into his body, but he never forgot these experiences. And that's why his songs are the way that they are. The
What
hellhound on my trail. Well,
what
yeah,
was
the
the
hellhound is on your trail because you know that you've already had these experiences, that they're just waiting for you to die, to come feed the dark.
what was the nature of the contract? What did he say to make that contract?
What did you say to make that contract? He didn't have to say anything. Did you hand over your soul, say, I'll give you my soul, I'll feed the dark if you make me the best guitar player? No, he never uttered those words. He just knew that the dark was on his trail.
In retrospect, do you believe that the being that you encountered was the devil, or was it just a form of darkness?
Ooh, do you believe that the being you encountered was the devil, or was it just a form of darkness? It was the devil.
What was the devil's? Did it come to you when you crossed over and you died?
Did it come to you when you crossed over? When you finally died and you left the earth plane? No, he went to the light. But the devil really wanted to infiltrate the music because, everything's a war between light and dark, right? So if you're trying to influence the Black community to move away from gospel and to talk about negative experiences, that's why the devil wanted to be very influential in his music, because the devil is, or the dark is, always looking for a way to capture our soul. So it was, wow, this is a facilitator to bring a lot of people over to the dark side by moving them away from gospel. And then that's why he had so many brushes with the dark. They were really trying to infiltrate them, infiltrate him. And that's why he had so many of these experiences. That's why his music was about darkness.
Does he feel like there are a lot of other music genres, both from, like, say, heavy metal and from Black genres, that try and do that same thing, that lure people into the dark?
Music is a useful tool for the dark to be where people. Yes, it's very useful because people make deep emotional connections with music. It's the music of our soul. And it's easy to bring people over to the dark side with music.
Did his experience as a guitar player become enhanced after he made that deal? Did he feel like he got better? Was it a emotional charge?
So he never actually made that deal with the devil where he handed his guitar and the devil tuned it. That deal was made long before he came to the earth plane. That contract to bring people over to the dark was through music, was made before he was even given a physical body in a womb. And then, of course, all of his negative childhood experiences helped to really solidify that those brushes with darkness. How did you become this new amazing guitar player? I mean, your guitar playing was very mediocre, and then you disappeared. How long were you away? Were you away for 6 months? Up to a year, he's saying. He was away for up to a year. And
What
where
did he
did
do
you
that year?
go? Where did you go? Where were you? Were you in Mississippi, Memphis, or any of those? Or no, no. Where were you? He was down in New Orleans. And he learned some new techniques with some people in New Orleans. And then, New Orleans, he's saying Louisiana was rough. It was very, very difficult to live as a Black man, to be fed. Food was scarce. They would have to, basically, what we call modern day dumpster diving for food. And he wanted to go back to a better existence where he didn't have to starve, and where he could also access more alcohol and people would pay him for his music. So he took this new guitar picking back up to his home.
From the vantage point that you're at now, do you see a continuing presence of dark forces in the music industry?
Dark forces are all around us and everything that we do.
How
You
can
just
people,
have to make sure that you are so solid in the white light that you won't give in to those dark forces.
can he offer examples of protection that aspiring artists could try and put around themselves to protect against those dark forces coming in?
It's all about intention. See, his intentions were dark, right? His life was spent living in darkness. You know, he was having affairs with married women. He was getting women pregnant, having illegitimate children that he didn't really care about. He didn't want anything to do with them. He could barely take care of himself, let alone illegitimate children. He was breaking away from the gospel scene. He was, an alcoholic. Um, and I feel like if he could get his hands on drugs, he would have done that too. So his whole existence was spent in like darkness.
When he crossed over, did he see that did he know it was going to be a short life?
Well, he obviously understood that when he left the earth plane, but when he was on the earth plane, he did kind of know it was going to be a short life due to all the near death experiences he'd had. He knew it was a matter of time. The amount he was drinking was so much that he didn't know if he was going to make it ever to see the next day, and nor did he care. Nor did he care. I mean, that he believes that the alcohol was the devil's work, right? And that was really overshadowed his fantastic talent.
Having crossed over, did he incarnate into any other musician roles since he passed away?
Just one in the 70s, but his life was cut short as well.
Is he incarnated now?
No.
Does he have plans to come back in?
Yes. You know who? So this is kind of strange, and I don't know anything about the lead singer of the Doors, but that is what he is showing me. The lead singer of the Doors. What was his name? Do you remember?
I don't know. I don't follow music.
Jim Morrison.
People are shouting Jim Morrison at me now. But yeah,
So
he's saying he incarnated as Jim Morrison.
he's Jim Morrison. That's what he said.
Holy wow.
Break on through to the other side. Now it makes sense. He's saying that he was. I'm like, are you lying to me? He's like, no, ma'am, I'm not lying. Um, are you sure? He was Jim Morrison.
Holy Moses.
Give me just a second. Hang on.
Wow. So that brings up a whole nother show. What was your decision to incarnate as Jim Morrison?
Because he wanted to see that. I'm like asking him, why did you want to reincarnate as Jim Morrison? Because he wanted to see if he could actually have a life away from the darkness. And he's saying Jim Morrison did not have a life away from darkness either. And the darkness got him again. And I'm saying, but will you be coming back in as another musician? And he will be. He will be.
Bigger?
I don't know if you can you get bigger than Jim Morrison back in the day? Um, will you be coming in at Jim Morrison? Yes, yes. But he says, I don't like having a lifetime reincarnated as a white man. He's telling me I want to reincarnate back into being a black musician, and I feel like he will be. Are you due to reincarnate very soon? Yes, I feel like he will reincarnate soon. So he will hit the scene in probably 25 years. And will you be playing guitar? No, he won't be playing guitar. He'll be singing, and we'll be playing, and possibly like piano, keyboards.
Wow. Is there anything he'd like to share with us that he can learn and people can learn from having vices in their life right now? Like, what does he recommend people do to have it not get a hold of them and take them to the other side too soon?
Well, it's a tool of the dark to take you down, right? Because if you're trying to put out a message, and he says, I'm not making those dark contracts again where I'm putting out information to move people away from religion. But if you're putting out a message, if you're a role model in society, if you're someone that people look up to, the way that the dark can take you down is through having these addictions.
How can people keep themselves away from those addictions?
Keep themselves from those addictions. He said, get on your knees and pray to God. So funny. That's hilarious, by the way. He's like, I'm going to be praying to God that I never get back on that path, because he says that's taken me down twice. And I'm saying, what do you think about now that people are so interested in your story? And he loves that. He loves that. And you know, he's just grateful. He says, I didn't realize how wonderful it is to be alive when you're on the earth plane. And that's what he looks forward to, is just being alive. So many of us are focused on, he says, getting the hell up out of here, right? And we need to be focused on the living instead of focus on the dying.
Robert Johnson, Life and Legacy, the blues giant. Thank you for joining us today and sharing your story. Didn't think I could be more amazed than I am now, but thank you so much.
Yeah, Jim Morrison, would you believe it? Wow, that's so cool.